Clara May Thornton's hands trembled as she stirred the last of her flour into the pot. 3 days without a proper meal, 12 cents left in her pocket, and a town that wanted her gone by sundown. She had buried 2 lives already, her parents, her husband. She refused to bury her dreams. What happened next would change everything. If you want to see how one woman's cooking brought a hardened lawman to tears, subscribe to our channel and follow Clara's journey to the very end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The summer sun of 1879 beat down on Comfort, Texas, like God himself held a grudge against the place. Clara May Thornton stood behind the cook stove at Emmett's saloon, sweat dripping down her temples, her calico dress clinging to her back. She had been cooking for 6 hours straight, and her feet screamed for mercy. But feet could wait. Hungry men could not. "Order up," she called, sliding 3 plates of fried chicken onto the counter. "Table 4, table 7, and the gentleman by the window." Emmett Rhodes, the 65-year-old owner with a face like cracked leather and a heart softer than fresh butter, grabbed the plates with practiced ease. "Clara, you keep cooking like this. I'm going to have to build an addition just to fit all the folks wanting to eat here." She managed a tired smile. "Just doing my job, Mr. Rhodes." "Emmett," he corrected for the 100th time. "Call me Emmett. We're family now." Family. The word caught in her throat like a fishbone. She had not had family in 4 years, not since the fever took her aunt and uncle, not since Marcus. She shook her head, refusing to let that name settle in her mind. "Yes, sir. Emmett." He studied her for a long moment, those pale blue eyes seeing more than she wanted him to see. Then he nodded once and disappeared through the swinging door to the dining room. Clara turned back to her stove, checking the beans simmering in the cast-iron pot, testing the cornbread in the oven. Her hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over, while her mind wandered to darker places. She had arrived in Comfort 3 weeks ago with $12, a carpet bag of clothes, and a heart full of desperate hope. The stagecoach had dropped her at the edge of town just as a summer storm rolled in, and she had stood there in the rain, watching lightning crack the sky, wondering if she had made yet another mistake in a life full of them. But Emmett had found her. Emmett had given her a chance. And Clara May Thornton did not waste chances. The kitchen door swung open and a young man stepped through. Miguel Santos, 28 years old, with dark eyes that held too much sadness for his age. He carried a crate of vegetables from the garden, setting it down carefully beside her workstation. "The tomatoes are ready, Miss Clara. And the peppers. I picked the best ones." "Thank you, Miguel." She wiped her hands on her apron and inspected his selection. "Perfect as always." "These are beautiful. Your grandmother taught you well." He ducked his head, but she caught the ghost of a smile. "She would be proud to hear you say that, ma'am. She should be proud of you. You have a gift." Miguel's smile faded. "Not everyone thinks so." Clara knew what he meant. She had seen the way some townsfolk looked at him, heard the muttered comments, watched him shrink into himself when certain men walked through the door. "Their opinions don't put food on tables," she said firmly. "Your talent does. Remember that." Before he could respond, the kitchen door burst open again. This time, it was not Emmett. Wesley Hargrove filled the doorway like a thundercloud blocking the sun. 40 years old, dressed in a suit too fine for a Texas summer, with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He owned half the land around Comfort and wanted the other half badly enough to taste it. "Well, well." His voice slithered across the kitchen like a snake through tall grass. "If it isn't the famous widow cook everyone's been talking about." Clara's spine stiffened, but she kept her voice steady. "Mr. Hargrove, the dining room is through that door. I'm sure Emmett would be happy to seat you." "Oh, I'm not here to eat." He stepped closer, and Miguel shifted position, putting himself slightly between them. Hargrove noticed and sneered. "I'm here to make you an offer, Mrs. Thornton." "It's Miss Thornton now, and I'm not interested in offers. You haven't heard it yet. Don't need to." Hargrove's smile tightened. I'm building a new hotel. Biggest one between San Antonio and Austin. I need a cook. Someone with your talents. His eyes traveled down her body in a way that made her skin crawl. I pay very well, and I take very good care of my employees. Clara's hands curled into fists at her sides. I already have a position, Mr. Hargrove, with someone who treats me with respect. Emmett. Hargrove laughed a sound like gravel in a tin can. That old fool is barely keeping this place afloat. 6 months, maybe less, and he'll be bankrupt. Then where will you be, out on the street with nothing but your cooking pot and your pretty face? That's enough. The words came from Miguel, quiet but firm. Hargrove's eyes narrowed. Did the help just speak to me? He has a name, Clara said, stepping forward. And he's right. You should leave now, Mr. Hargrove, before I lose my temper and accidentally drop this pot of boiling beans on your fancy boots. For a long moment, Hargrove just stared at her. Then he laughed again, but this time there was something dangerous underneath it. I like spirit in a woman. Makes things more interesting. He backed toward the door, hands raised in mock surrender. Think about my offer, Miss Thornton. I'm a patient man, but my patience has limits. He disappeared through the door, and Clara let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Are you all right, Miss Clara? Miguel asked, his voice tight with concern. I'm fine. She was not fine. Her hands were shaking. Let's get back to work. We have hungry people waiting. They worked in silence for the next hour. The only sounds, the sizzle of meat in the pan and the clatter of dishes. Clara tried to focus on her cooking, but Hargrove's words kept echoing in her head. 6 months. Bankrupt. Out on the street. She could not go through that again. Could not start over in another town, another kitchen, another life built on sand. She was tired of running. Tired of losing. Tired of being afraid. The dinner rush finally ended around 8 o'clock, and Clara stepped out the back door to catch a breath of evening air. The heat had broken slightly, and a warm breeze carried the scent of sage and wildflowers from the hills beyond town. She leaned against the wall, closing her eyes, letting the quiet settle around her like a blanket. Rough night. Her eyes flew open. A man stood at the edge of the alley, tall and broad-shouldered, with a tin star pinned to his vest that caught the last light of the setting sun. His hat shadowed his face, but she could see the strong line of his jaw, the dark hair touched with silver at the temples. I didn't mean to startle you, ma'am. He stepped forward, and she saw his eyes now. Brown, warm, with crinkles at the corners that suggested he smiled more often than he frowned. I'm Sam Colton, Deputy Sheriff. I know who you are. Everyone in Comfort knew Sam Colton, the man who had single-handedly brought in the Miller gang last spring, the man who had lost his father to a riding accident and his fiancée to a richer man, the man who, according to Josie at the general store, had not smiled properly in 3 years. He was smiling now, though, just a small one barely there. Then you have me at a disadvantage, Miss Thornton, Clara Thornton. I cook here. I know. He removed his hat, holding it against his chest. I've eaten your food every day this week. That's actually why I'm here. Her defenses went up immediately. If you have a complaint. He looked genuinely startled. Ma'am, I've been eating my own cooking for 6 years. Do you know what that's like? Burnt beans and leather jerky day after day. Then I walk into Emmett's place, and you put a plate of fried chicken in front of me that made me forget my own name. Clara blinked. Thank you. What I'm trying to say, very badly apparently, is that your cooking is extraordinary, the best I've ever had. And I wanted you to know that. She did not know how to respond. Compliments made her uncomfortable. They always felt like traps, pretty words hiding ugly intentions. But there was nothing in Sam Colton's eyes except honest appreciation. That's kind of you to say, Deputy. Sam, please. Deputy makes me feel like my grandfather. He smiled again, and this time it reached his eyes. I also wanted to warn you about something. Warn me. I saw Wesley Hargrove leave through the back about an hour ago. He didn't look happy. Clara's stomach tightened. He made me an offer. I declined. I figured as much. Sam's expression darkened. Hargrove doesn't take rejection well. He's been buying up property all over the county, and anyone who won't sell tends to have problems. Barn fires, poisoned wells, cattle going missing. Are you saying he's a criminal? I'm saying he's careful. Never leaves evidence I can use. But I'm watching him, Miss Thornton. And now I'll be watching out for you too. I don't need protection, Deputy. I've been taking care of myself for a long time. I don't doubt it. He put his hat back on, touching the brim in a gesture of respect. But sometimes it's nice to know someone's got your back anyway. You have a good evening, Miss Thornton, and thank you again for the chicken. It was the best meal I've had in 6 years. He walked away before she could respond, his boots crunching on the gravel until the sound faded into the evening quiet. Clara stood there for a long moment, her heart doing something strange in her chest. Something she had not felt in a very long time. She pushed the feeling down, locked it away, and went back inside to finish cleaning the kitchen. The next morning came too early, as mornings always did. Clara was at the stove by 5 preparing biscuits for the breakfast crowd. Her special biscuits, the ones her aunt had taught her to make back in Tennessee. Buttermilk cold butter, a touch of honey, and a secret ingredient she had never told anyone. Love. Her aunt always said the secret ingredient was love. Clara had laughed at that as a girl. Now, 27 years old and twice orphaned, she understood. Food tasted different when you made it with care. When you thought about the people who would eat it, imagined their faces when they took that first bite. She thought about Sam Colton as she mixed the dough, about the way his eyes had lit up when he talked about her fried chicken, about the warning he had given her, quiet and serious, like he actually cared what happened to her. Stop it, she told herself. You don't know him. You don't trust anyone. But her hands kept working the dough, and her mind kept wandering to brown eyes and a gentle smile. The breakfast rush started at 6:30 and did not let up until nearly 10. Emmett worked the front chatting with customers, refilling coffee cups, while Clara commanded the kitchen like a general directing troops. Eggs over easy, eggs scrambled, eggs poached for the fancy lawyer from Austin who was passing through, bacon, sausage, ham, hash browns fried crispy on the edges, and biscuits. Dozens and dozens of biscuits disappearing from plates almost as fast as she could make them. Sam Colton came in at 7:15, taking his usual seat by the window. She knew because Emmett told her, sticking his head through the kitchen door with a knowing grin. Your deputy's here again. Same table, same hopeful expression. He's not my deputy. He's not anybody else's either. Emmett winked. Want me to send Miguel out with his order, or do you want to take it yourself? Miguel can do it. Coward. I'm not a... But Emmett was already gone, chuckling to himself. Clara focused on her cooking, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach every time the kitchen door opened. When Miguel returned from delivering Sam's breakfast, he was smiling. The deputy said to tell you this is the best thing he's ever eaten. Again. He says that a lot. He's just being polite. He ate every bite in under 5 minutes, Miss Clara. That's not polite. That's starving. She did not respond, but she felt warmth spread through her chest, despite herself. The breakfast rush ended, and Clara was scrubbing pans when the kitchen door opened. She expected Emmett, or maybe Miguel, with more vegetables from the garden. It was neither. 3 men stood in the doorway. Big men with mean eyes and meaner smiles. She recognized one of them from around town. Cody something. He worked for Hargrove. Kitchens closed to visitors, Clara said, keeping her voice calm despite the fear climbing up her throat. You want food? Go around to the dining room. We ain't here for food. Cody stepped forward, and the other 2 followed. Mr. Hargrove sent us with a message. I already gave Mr. Hargrove my answer. That's the problem, see? He didn't like your answer. Cody smiled, revealing a gap where his front teeth should have been. He thinks maybe you didn't understand the question. The door to the dining room swung open, and Miguel stepped through, carrying a crate of dishes. He froze when he saw the three men. "Miss Clara." "Well, look here." One of the other men, a giant with a shaved head, moved toward Miguel. "The little Mexican. You got something to say, boy?" Miguel set down the crate carefully, his dark eyes steady. "I think you gentlemen should leave." "You think?" Gaptooth laughed. "Hear that, boys? The help thinks." "He's not the help." Clara stepped between them, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her ears. "He's my assistant, and you will treat him with respect or you will leave. Those are your only options." Gaptooth stopped laughing. His eyes went cold. "Lady, you don't give us options. We give you options. Option 1, you come work for Mr. Hargrove nice and willing. Option 2, things get ugly. There's a third option." Everyone turned. Sam Colton stood in the dining room doorway, one hand resting casually on the pistol at his hip. His voice was calm, almost lazy, but his eyes were anything but. "Option 3 is you boys walk out of here right now before I arrest you for trespassing and threatening 2 innocent people." Gaptooth sneered. "This ain't your business, deputy." "Everything in this town is my business." Sam stepped forward, and Clara noticed that the other 2 men shifted back slightly. "And I'm making this my personal business. So unless you want to spend the next 6 months in my jail eating your own bad cooking, I suggest you move. Now." For a long moment, nobody moved. The tension in the room was thick enough to taste. Then Gaptooth laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This ain't over, deputy. Not by a long shot." He turned to Clara, pointing one thick finger at her face. "And you. Mr. Hargrove always gets what he wants. Always. Remember that." They left through the back door, their boots heavy on the wooden steps. Clara realized she was shaking. She pressed her hands flat against the counter to hide it, but Sam noticed anyway. He crossed the kitchen in 3 quick strides and stood beside her, close but not touching. "Are you hurt?" "No." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. They were just talking. Talking with a threat behind every word. Sam's jaw was tight. "This is exactly what I warned you about. Hargrove is escalating." "What am I supposed to do?" The words burst out before she could stop them. "Run again. I've been running my whole life, deputy. I'm tired. I'm so tired of starting over in new towns, building something just to watch it get torn down. I won't do it again. I can't." Sam was quiet for a moment, then softly, "Tell me." "Tell you what?" "Whatever you're running from, maybe I can help." Clara laughed, but it came out broken. "You can't help. No one can help. It's just life. My parents died when I was 12. Fever. My aunt and uncle raised me, taught me everything I know about cooking. They died too. More fever when I was 23. I'm sorry. I was married by then. To a man named Marcus. He was a merchant in Nashville. Good man, kind man." Her voice cracked. "He was killed 2 years later. Robbery gone wrong. They shot him for $18 and a pocket watch." Sam did not say anything. He just stood there, solid and steady, letting her talk. "After that, I couldn't stay in Nashville anymore. Too many memories, so I started moving. Memphis, Little Rock, Dallas. Now here. And every time I think I've found somewhere to belong, something happens to take it away." She finally looked up at him, and she knew her eyes were wet, but she did not care. "So no, deputy. You can't help, because you can't change what I am." "And what are you?" "Cursed. Unlucky. Broken. Pick any word you like." Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. His palm was warm and rough with calluses, and something about the contact made her breath catch. "Here's what I see," he said quietly. "I see a woman who's been knocked down more times than anyone should have to bear, and I see her getting up, every single time. That's not broken, Miss Thornton. That's strong. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen." Clara could not speak, could not move, could only stand there, her hand in his, feeling something crack open inside her chest. "I lost my pa when I was 18, Sam continued. "Riding accident. Broke his neck right in front of me. And 3 years ago, the woman I was supposed to marry ran off with a banker because she wanted a bigger house and a softer life. So I know something about loss, about starting over, about wondering if it's even worth trying anymore." "How do you keep going?" "Same as you, I reckon." He squeezed her hand gently. "Because stopping ain't an option. Because there's always tomorrow. And because every once in a while you walk into a saloon and eat a plate of fried chicken that reminds you life still has good things in it." She laughed through her tears. "You really liked that chicken. Ma'am, I would arrest myself if it meant getting another plate of that chicken." She laughed again, harder this time, and he smiled. A real smile, the kind that transformed his whole face and made him look 10 years younger. "I have to get back to work," she said finally, reluctantly pulling her hand away. "The lunch crowd will be here soon. And I have to go have a conversation with Mr. Hargrove about the behavior of his employees." Sam's smile faded, replaced by something harder. "He won't bother you again. I'll make sure of it." "Be careful. He's dangerous." "So am I when someone threatens the people I—" He stopped, cleared his throat. "The people in my town. I protect what's mine." He left before she could respond, and Clara stood in the middle of the kitchen, her hand still tingling where he had held it, her heart doing that strange thing again. Miguel emerged from the pantry where he had retreated during the confrontation. "Miss Clara, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Miguel." She took a deep breath and tied her apron tighter. "We have work to do. Those biscuits aren't going to make themselves." But as she turned back to her stove, she found herself thinking about brown eyes and rough hands and a deputy who ate her chicken like it was the best thing he had ever tasted. Maybe, just maybe, she was tired of running. And maybe, just maybe, Comfort, Texas was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 days passed, and Clara found herself watching the door every time it opened. She told herself it was caution. Hargrove's men might return. She needed to stay alert, stay ready. But her heart knew the truth. She was watching for Sam Colton. He came every morning at 7:15, every evening at 6. He sat at the same table by the window, ate every bite she put in front of him, and left generous tips that she tried to refuse, and he insisted she keep. "It ain't charity," he said on the 4th day, pressing coins into her palm. "It's gratitude. There's a difference. You don't owe me gratitude for doing my job. I owe you gratitude for making my life worth living again." He said it simply, like stating the weather, and walked out before she could respond. Clara stood there holding the coins, her heart pounding against her ribs. Josie Hawkins found her like that 10 minutes later, still frozen in the middle of the dining room. "Girl, you look like you've seen a ghost." Josie swept in with her usual energy, a basket of eggs balanced on her hip. "Or maybe an angel. Which was it?" "Neither. I was just thinking. Thinking about that handsome deputy who can't stop staring at you." Josie set down her basket and fixed Clara with knowing eyes. "The whole town's talking, you know. Sam Colton hasn't smiled this much in 3 years. People are placing bets on when he'll finally ask to court you proper." Clara's cheeks burned. "That's ridiculous. We barely know each other." "Honey, I knew my husband for exactly 4 days before he proposed. Sometimes you just know." Josie's expression softened. "And from what I can see, that man knows. He's just being kind. Sam Colton is many things. Kind to strangers ain't one of them. He's polite, sure, does his duty. But kind—" Josie shook her head. "He reserves that for people who matter to him, and you, Clara Thornton, matter to him something fierce." Before Clara could argue, the front door burst open. Emmett stumbled through his face, white as chalk blood, running from a cut on his forehead. "Emmett!" Clara rushed forward, catching him as he swayed. What happened? Who did this? Hargrove's men. Emmett's voice shook. Caught me on the way back from the bank. Said it was a warning. Said next time they won't stop at my head. Josie was already at the door, shouting for help. Within minutes, the saloon filled with concerned townsfolk. Doc Harrison pushed through the crowd, his medical bag in hand, and began examining Emmett's wound. It's not deep, the doctor said. But he's shaken. He needs rest. I need to find Sam. Clara was already moving toward the door. He needs to know about this. I'll go. Miguel appeared at her elbow. You stay with Mr. Emmett. He needs you here. Clara hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. Miguel slipped out the back, and Clara turned her attention to Emmett, holding his hand, while Doc Harrison cleaned and bandaged the wound. I'm sorry, Clara. Emmett's voice was barely a whisper. I should have sold when Hargrove first offered. Should have taken his money and walked away. Now look what I've brought down on all of us. Don't you dare apologize. Clara squeezed his hand hard. This isn't your fault. This is Hargrove's doing, and he's going to answer for it. He owns half this town. He owns the mayor, the judge, probably half the sheriff's office, too. Who's going to make him answer? I am. Everyone turned. Sam stood in the doorway, his jaw set like granite, his eyes burning with cold fury. Miguel stood behind him, breathing hard from running. I heard what happened. Sam crossed to Emmett's side, crouching down to look the old man in the eye. Tell me everything. Every word they said. Every face you recognized. Emmett recounted the attack in halting words. 3 men. Cody and 2 others he didn't know. They had been waiting in the alley behind the bank, dragged him into the shadows, worked him over with fists and boots, while telling him to convince Clara to accept Hargrove's offer. They said if she doesn't agree by week's end, they'll burn this place to the ground. Emmett's voice cracked. With everyone inside. The room went silent. Clara felt ice spread through her veins. Not fear for herself. Fear for Emmett. For Miguel. For all the innocent people who would suffer because she had refused a monster's demands. Maybe I should, she began. No. Sam's voice cut through the room like a blade. You will not give that man 1 inch, not one. The moment you bend, he owns you forever. I've seen it happen a dozen times. Hargrove doesn't want to cook, he wants control, and once he has it, he never lets go. But if people get hurt because of me, people get hurt because of him. Sam stood, and there was something dangerous in the way he moved. Something coiled and ready. This ends now. Tonight. I'm going to pay Mr. Hargrove a visit. You can't arrest him. Doc Harrison spoke up from the corner. Emmett didn't see the attackers clearly. It's his word against Hargrove's, and Hargrove has lawyers. I'm not going to arrest him. Sam's smile held no warmth. I'm going to have a conversation, man to man, and I'm going to make him understand that if he touches anyone in this town again, lawyers won't be able to help him. Sam. Clara grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. Be careful, please, he's dangerous. Sam looked down at her hand on his arm, then up at her face. Something shifted in his expression. Something raw and vulnerable beneath the anger. I've been careful my whole life, he said quietly. Careful got me a broken heart and an empty house. Maybe it's time I tried something different. He was gone before she could respond. The next 2 hours stretched like taffy, slow and agonizing. Clara tried to cook, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She burned a batch of biscuits for the first time in years, dropped a pan of gravy, nearly sliced her finger cutting onions because her eyes kept drifting to the window. Josie stayed with her handling the customers, while Clara struggled to focus. Emmett rested in the back room, refusing to go home, despite Doc Harrison's orders. That man's going to get himself killed, Emmett said when Clara brought him soup. Hargrove doesn't fight fair. He's got hired guns, bought judges' connections all the way to Austin. Sam knows what he's doing. Does he? Emmett caught her hand. Or is he so fixed on protecting you that he's not thinking straight? I've seen the way he looks at you, Clara, like you hung the moon and stars. A man in love does foolish things. Clara's breath caught. We're not. Maybe not yet, but you will be if you both survive this mess. Emmett squeezed her hand weakly. Don't let that good man throw his life away on my account. If things go south, you take Miguel and you run. Promise me. I'm done running. Then promise me you'll live. Whatever it takes. You deserve happiness, Clara. You deserve a life. Don't let Wesley Hargrove take that from you. The front door banged open. Clara's heart stopped, then raced when she saw Sam stride through. He was disheveled, his knuckles bloody, a purple bruise blooming on his cheekbone. But he was alive. He was whole. It's done, he said. What happened? Clara rushed to him, reaching for his injured hand before she could stop herself. You're hurt. You should see the other fellow. Sam's grin was fierce and satisfied. Hargrove and I had our conversation. He had 3 of his men try to change my mind. They're currently enjoying the hospitality of my jail. And Hargrove? He's considering his options. I made it clear that if anything happens to you or Emmett, or anyone connected to this saloon, I will make it my personal mission to destroy everything he's built. Every dirty deal, every bribed official, every crime he's covered up. I've been collecting evidence for 2 years waiting for the right moment. Sam's eyes met hers. He knows I'm not bluffing. You'd really do that? Risk everything. For you. Sam's voice dropped low. I'd burn this whole territory down. The room fell silent. Everyone was staring. Clara didn't care. She reached up and touched his bruised cheek gently like he might break. You foolish, wonderful man, she whispered. You could have been killed. Worth it. He caught her hand, pressed his lips to her palm. You're worth it. Someone coughed. Probably Josie. Clara stepped back, her face flaming, but she couldn't look away from Sam's eyes. You need to get that hand looked at, she said, and your face. I've had worse. That's not comforting. He laughed, and the sound broke something loose in her chest, something that had been locked up tight for 4 long years. Let me cook you dinner, she said. A proper thank you. Not here. At my boarding house. I have a small kitchen, and I want to make you something special. Sam's eyebrows rose. Miss Thornton, are you asking me to supper? I'm asking you to let me feed you. It's what I do when I care about someone. The word hung between them. Care. Such a small word for such a big feeling. Then I accept. Sam's smile softened. I would be honored. They agreed on 8 o'clock. Sam left to deal with his prisoners, and Clara spent the rest of the afternoon in a daze, somehow managing to finish the dinner service without burning anything else. At 7, she rushed to her boarding house room, changed into her best dress blue calico with white trim, and began preparing the meal she had been planning in her head all afternoon. Chicken fried steak, her mother's recipe, mashed potatoes whipped with butter and cream, fresh green beans from Miguel's garden, and for dessert, a peach cobbler that had been her husband Marcus's favorite. She froze the peaches half-sliced in front of her. Marcus. She hadn't thought about him all day, hadn't felt that familiar ache of loss that usually accompanied his memory. Instead, she had thought about Sam. Sam's eyes. Sam's hands. Sam's voice saying she was worth burning everything for. I'm sorry, she whispered to the empty room. To the ghost of a man who had loved her well and died too young. I'm sorry, but I have to keep living. You would want me to keep living. No answer came. She hadn't expected one, but somehow standing there in her tiny kitchen with peaches in her hands and hope in her heart, she felt something like permission. Sam arrived at exactly 8 o'clock. He had cleaned up. Fresh shirt hair combed the bruise on his face, turning interesting shades of purple and green. He held a bunch of wildflowers, slightly crushed from being clutched too tight. I picked these on the way. He thrust them toward her awkwardly. "They're not much. I'm not good at this. At courting. It's been a long time." Clara took the flowers and pressed them to her nose, inhaling their sweet scent. "They're perfect. Come in." The room was small. A bed in one corner, a washstand in another, and the tiny kitchen where she had worked her magic. A small table by the window held 2 place settings, a candle flickering between them. "It's not fancy," Clara said, suddenly nervous. "The hotel dining room would have been—" "This is better." Sam looked around with genuine appreciation. "This is real. This is you." She served him dinner with trembling hands, watching his face as he took the first bite of chicken fried steak. His eyes closed. His jaw worked slowly. A sound escaped his throat, something between a moan and a prayer. "Clara." His voice was rough. "This is... I don't have words. I thought your restaurant cooking was good, but this... It's the love," she said, then blushed at her own boldness. "My aunt always said food tastes better when you make it with love." Sam opened his eyes and looked at her. Really looked like he was seeing past her skin to something deeper. "Then there must be a lot of love in this meal." They ate slowly, talking between bites. He told her about his father, a Texas Ranger, who had taught him everything about honor and duty. About his mother, a schoolteacher, who had filled their house with books and music. About the woman who had broken his heart, and how he had decided never to let anyone that close again. "But then you walked into Emmett's kitchen," he said, "and I couldn't stay away. I tried. God knows I tried. Every day I told myself not to go back, not to get attached, not to let myself feel anything. And every day I ended up in that same chair by the window eating whatever you put in front of me like it was my last meal on earth." "Why?" Clara's voice was barely a whisper. "Because your food tasted like hope. And I had forgotten what hope felt like." She reached across the table and took his hand. No hesitation this time. No fear. "I was married before," she said. "To a good man. He was killed 4 years ago. I thought I would never feel anything again. I thought that part of me was dead forever. And now I'm not sure what I feel, except that when you walked into Emmett's saloon with blood on your knuckles and fire in your eyes, my heart did something it hasn't done in years." "What did it do?" "It beat, really beat, like it was waking up." Sam stood, pulling her gently to her feet. They stood toe to toe, barely a breath between them. "I'm going to kiss you now," he said. "If that's not what you want, tell me, and I'll step back. No questions, no hard feelings." Clara answered by closing the distance herself. His lips were warm and firm. He kissed her slowly, carefully, like she was something precious that might break. His hands cupped her face with impossible gentleness, and she felt tears slip down her cheeks without knowing why. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sam rested his forehead against hers. "I know it's too soon," he whispered. "I know we barely know each other. But I need you to understand something, Clara. Whatever this is between us, I'm not walking away. Not now. Not ever. Unless you tell me to." "I'm not going to tell you to." "Then we're in this together. Together." She kissed him again, soft and quick. "Now sit down and finish your dinner. I didn't slave over that steak for you to let it get cold." He laughed, and she laughed, and for one perfect moment, the world outside with its dangers and villains and uncertainty ceased to exist. They finished dinner. They ate peach cobbler straight from the pan, trading bites and stories and increasingly bold touches. When Sam finally left at midnight, Clara stood in her doorway, watching him walk away, her lips swollen and her heart so full it ached. She slept better than she had in years. The next morning, she woke to screaming. Clara bolted upright, heart hammering, as shouts filled the street below her window. She threw on her dress and ran outside, following the crowd toward Main Street. Emmett's saloon was on fire. Flames licked at the window's smoke pouring from the roof as bucket brigades formed, desperately trying to contain the blaze. Clara ran toward the building, but strong arms caught her. "Clara, no!" Sam's voice. Sam's arms. "It's too dangerous." "Miguel Emmett. They sleep in the back room. I got them out. They're safe." He turned her to face him, his expression fierce. "They're safe. Everyone's safe. But the building... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't think Hargrove would move this fast." Clara watched her workplace burn, watched her dreams turn to ash, watched everything she had built in comfort go up in flames. She should have cried, should have screamed, should have fallen apart like she had so many times before. Instead, she felt something cold and hard settle in her chest, something that had nothing to do with grief and everything to do with fury. "Where is he?" Her voice didn't sound like her own. "Where is Hargrove?" "Clara." "Where?" Sam hesitated, then pointed toward the other end of town. "His ranch, 3 miles east, but you can't—" She was already walking. "Clara." Sam caught up, grabbed her arm. "You can't just storm up there. He has men, guns, he'll kill you." "Then he'll kill me." She met his eyes, and whatever he saw there made him step back. "But I won't die quiet. I won't die running. If Wesley Hargrove wants to destroy me, he's going to have to look me in the face while he does it." Sam stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Then I'm coming with you." They walked together toward the rising sun, toward the lion's den, toward whatever fate awaited them. And behind them, Emmett's saloon burned to the ground. The walk to Hargrove's ranch felt like a lifetime, and a heartbeat all at once. Clara's boots kicked up dust with every step, her jaw set so tight, her teeth ached. Sam matched her pace, his hand resting on his pistol, his eyes scanning the road ahead. "You got a plan?" he asked. "Walk in. Tell him what I think of him. See what happens." "That's not a plan. That's suicide." "You got a better idea." Sam was quiet for a moment. Then, "Matter of fact, I do." He pulled her off the main road behind a cluster of rocks. Before she could protest, he pressed a small derringer into her hand. "You know how to use this." Clara stared at the weapon. Cold metal. Deadly weight. "My husband taught me. Before." "Good. Keep it hidden. Hargrove will expect me to be armed. He won't expect you." "Sam, I don't want to kill anyone." "Neither do I." His eyes were hard. "But I want even less for you to die. If it comes down to you or him, you pull that trigger. Understand?" She tucked the derringer into her apron pocket. "Understand." They reached the ranch 20 minutes later. 2 armed men stood at the gate, rifles across their chests. "That's far enough, deputy." The taller one spat tobacco juice at Sam's feet. "Mr. Hargrove ain't receiving visitors. He'll receive us." Sam's voice carried the weight of law and something darker. "Unless he wants the U.S. Marshal Service asking questions about that fire in town." The guards exchanged glances. The shorter one disappeared inside. Clara's heart pounded against her ribs. She could feel the derringer's weight against her thigh, a deadly secret. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the shorter guard returned. "Mr. Hargrove will see you, but the lady stays outside." "The lady goes where I go," Sam said. "Then neither of you go anywhere." Clara stepped forward before Sam could argue. "I'll wait here. Do what you need to do." "Clara, I'll be fine." She squeezed his hand once hard. "Go." Sam hesitated, searching her face. Then he nodded and followed the guard inside. The moment he disappeared, the tall guard turned to Clara with an ugly smile. "Well now, alone at last. I'm warning you." Clara's hand drifted toward her pocket. Don't. Don't what I'm just being friendly." He stepped closer. "You're the cook, ain't you? The one Mr. Hargrove's been so interested in. I can see why. You're a pretty little thing. And you're about 10 seconds from losing your hand." The guard laughed. Big talk for a woman all alone. She ain't alone. They both turned. Miguel stood at the edge of the property, a shotgun leveled at the guard's chest. Behind him, Josie Hawkins held a rifle like she'd been born with it. We followed you. Miguel's voice shook slightly, but his aim didn't waver. Mr. Emmett said you'd need backup. The guard's smile vanished. Now hold on. Drop your rifle, Josie commanded. Slow and easy, then get on your knees. You can't do this. I'm a woman who's buried 2 husbands and raised 4 sons in this godforsaken territory. Josie's eyes were steel. You think I won't shoot you where you stand? The guard dropped his rifle, got on his knees. Clara's breath came easier. Thank you. Both of you. Thank us later. Miguel moved to her side. What's happening inside? Sam's talking to Hargrove, trying to end this. And if talking don't work... A gunshot cracked from inside the house. Clara didn't think, didn't plan. She just ran. She burst through the front door, derringer in hand, and found chaos. Sam stood in the center of a large room, blood running from his shoulder, his pistol trained on Wesley Hargrove. 3 of Hargrove's men lay on the floor, disarmed and groaning. A 4th stood behind Hargrove, pressing a gun to the back of Sam's head. Well, well. Hargrove's smile was serpentine. The cook joins us. Put down your little toy, Miss Thornton, unless you want to watch your deputy's brains decorate my carpet. Clara's hand trembled. The derringer felt impossibly heavy. Do it, Sam said quietly. Shoot him. Don't worry about me. Sam, no. I said shoot him. And I said drop your weapon. Hargrove's smile widened. You've got 3 seconds, Miss Thornton. 1. Clara's mind raced. She couldn't shoot Hargrove without the guard shooting Sam. She couldn't shoot the guard without Hargrove's men rushing her. She was trapped. They were both trapped. 2. Clara. Sam's voice was calm, resigned. It's okay. Whatever happens, it's okay. You hear me. 3. I love you, Clara said. And she pulled the trigger. But she didn't aim at Hargrove. She aimed at the oil lamp hanging directly above his head. Glass shattered. Burning oil rained down. Hargrove screamed as flames caught his sleeve, stumbling backward, crashing into the guard behind Sam. Sam moved like lightning. He spun, knocked the gun from the guard's hand, and brought his pistol down hard on the man's skull. The guard crumpled. Hargrove was rolling on the floor, trying to smother the flames on his arm. His men were scrambling, confused, some trying to help their boss, others reaching for weapons. Out! Sam grabbed Clara's hand. Now, they ran. Behind them, Hargrove's voice rose to a scream. Kill them! Kill them both! I want them dead! Gunshots cracked. Bullets whizzed past Clara's ear. She ran faster than she'd ever run in her life. Sam pulling her forward, his injured shoulder bleeding freely. They burst out the front door. Miguel and Josie were waiting, horses ready. Ride! Sam shouted. Clara had never mounted a horse so fast. She kicked the animal's sides, and it leaped forward, carrying her away from Hargrove's ranch, away from the gunfire, away from death itself. They didn't stop until they reached the edge of town. Sam slid from his horse, clutching his shoulder, his face pale. We need to warn everyone. Hargrove won't stop now. He'll come for the whole town. Sam, you're bleeding too much. Clara jumped down, catching him as he swayed. We need to get you to Doc Harrison. No time. Hargrove has at least 20 men, once he gets them organized. Sam's eyes met hers. Clara, you need to leave. Take the next stage out of town. Go somewhere he can't find you. I told you, I'm done running. This ain't about running. This is about surviving. And I can't survive without you. The words tore from her throat. Don't you understand? I watched my parents die. I watched my husband die. I'm not watching you die too. I won't. Then help me stop him. Sam straightened, drawing strength from somewhere deep inside. Hargrove thinks this town is weak, thinks these people will scatter at the first sign of trouble. But I know them. I've protected them for 6 years. They're not cowards. They just need someone to lead them. You want to fight against 20 armed men? I want to stand. Sam's jaw tightened. Sometimes that's the same thing. They found Emmett at the church where survivors from the fire had gathered. His head was bandaged, his hands shaking, but his eyes lit up when he saw them. Thank God. He embraced Clara fiercely. We heard the shooting. Thought you were dead for sure. Not dead. Not yet. Sam stepped forward, addressing the crowd that had gathered. Listen to me, all of you. Wesley Hargrove is coming. He's bringing every man he has, and he means to burn this town to the ground. We can run, scatter to the wind. Let him win. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Or we can fight. Sam's voice rose. We can stand together, neighbor beside neighbor, and show that bastard that Comfort, Texas doesn't bow to bullies. I can't promise we'll all survive, but I can promise that if we run, we'll spend the rest of our lives running, and men like Hargrove will keep chasing. Silence. Then an old rancher stepped forward. Tom Hendricks, 70 years old with hands like leather. I came to this town with nothing but a mule and a prayer, he said. Built my spread from dirt, raised my children here, buried my wife here. His eyes hardened. I ain't leaving, and I ain't bowing to no fancy man in a fancy suit who thinks he can take what I built. Another man stepped forward, then another. Women, too. Young and old. Store owners and farmers. Prostitutes from the saloon. Immigrants and natives. One by one they stood. Clara felt tears streaming down her face. These people, these ordinary, extraordinary people who had every reason to run and chose to stay. What do you need us to do? Josie asked, her rifle still in hand. Sam started giving orders. Barricades on Main Street. Lookouts on the rooftops. Women and children to the church basement. Every man who could hold a gun on the line. Clara watched him transform. Not just a deputy anymore. A leader. A general. The man his father had raised him to be. What about me? She asked when he finally turned to her. Sam cupped her face in his hands, gentle, despite the urgency. You're the best thing that ever happened to this town. And to me, I need you safe. I'm not hiding in a basement while people fight my battle. Clara. I can shoot. Marcus taught me. And I can cook. Her chin lifted. Those men are going to be fighting for hours. They'll need food, water, someone to keep them going. That's what I do, Sam. I feed people. Let me feed them. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her, hard and desperate, like it might be the last time. I love you, he said against her lips. God help me, but I love you. Then don't die. That's an order. He laughed rough and broken. Yes, ma'am. The next 2 hours were a blur. Clara commandeered the general store kitchen, cooking everything she could get her hands on. Biscuits, bacon, coffee by the gallon. Miguel worked beside her, silent and efficient, while Josie organized runners to carry food to the defenders. Outside, she could hear Sam shouting orders, hear hammers pounding as barricades went up, hear the nervous laughter of men trying to hide their fear. Emmett appeared at her elbow, a pistol tucked in his belt, despite his injuries. They're coming, he said quietly. Scout just reported. 23 men, riding hard. Clara's hands stilled over the biscuit dough. How long? Maybe 30 minutes. Then I better work faster. She poured everything she had into that cooking. Every ounce of love. Every prayer. Every desperate hope that these people she had grown to care for would survive the night. When the first shots rang out, she was carrying a tray of biscuits to the barricade. She hit the ground as bullets whizzed overhead, crawling behind a water trough, the tray clutched to her chest. Somehow, impossibly, not a single biscuit had fallen. Sam appeared beside her, breathing hard. What the hell are you doing out here, Feeding your men." She thrust the tray at him. "They haven't eaten in hours. We're in the middle of a gunfight, and they'll fight better on full stomachs." She met his eyes. "Trust me." He stared at her. Then he grabbed a biscuit, shoved it in his mouth, and turned back to the battle. "She's right," he shouted to his men. "Grab food while you can. We've got a long night ahead." Clara ran back for more dodging bullets, praying with every step. She made 6 trips before Sam physically restrained her, pulling her behind a sturdy wall. "Enough. You've done enough." "But, please." His voice cracked. "Please, Clara. I can't shoot straight if I'm worried about you getting killed." She saw the fear in his eyes, the desperate love. "Okay." She pressed a kiss to his bloody forehead. "Okay, I'll stay back. But you come to me when you need feeding. Promise. Promise." She retreated to the church where the women and children had gathered. But she didn't hide. She set up a station near the door, cooking and serving anyone who came through, keeping her ears tuned to the battle outside. The fighting went on for hours. She heard screams, gunshots, explosions that shook the walls. Heard Sam's voice rising above the chaos, rallying his men, refusing to give ground. Heard Hargrove's voice too raging and cursing, demanding his men break through. Around midnight, a runner burst through the church doors. "We need the doc. Tom Hendricks is down." Clara grabbed the first aid kit she'd prepared and followed the runner without thinking. Outside, the night was chaos. Smoke and fire and the crack of gunshots. She found Tom behind a barricade, blood pooling beneath him. Doc Harrison was already there, working frantically. "Through and through," the doc muttered. "Missed the major arteries. He'll live if we can stop the bleeding." Clara knelt beside him, holding Tom's hand, while the doc worked. The old rancher's eyes fluttered open. "Miss Clara." His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm here, Mr. Hendricks. You're going to be fine." Did we hold? We're holding. Because of you. Because of all of you." Tom smiled, blood on his teeth. "Good. That's good." His eyes drifted closed. "My wife. She'd be proud. She always said this town was worth fighting for." "It is." Clara squeezed his hand. "And so are you." A massive explosion rocked the ground. Clara looked up to see Hargrove's men falling back, their main assault shattered. Sam stood at the center of the line, smoke rising from his pistol, his men cheering around him. They had held. But at what cost? Clara looked around at the wounded, the dying, the buildings burning, and she made a decision. "Stay with him," she told Doc Harrison. Then she stood and walked toward the enemy line. "Clara." Sam's voice desperate. "Clara, no." She kept walking, stepped over the barricade, walked into the no man's land between the two sides. "Wesley Hargrove?" Her voice rang out across the battlefield. "I want to talk." Silence fell. Both sides stopped shooting. After a long moment, Hargrove emerged from behind his men. His arm was bandaged, his face twisted with rage. "You've got nerve, I'll give you that." He walked toward her, stopping 10 feet away. "What could you possibly have to say? This is about me, not them. You want me, fine. I'll go with you, work for you, whatever you want, but you leave this town alone." "Clara, no." Sam was trying to climb over the barricade. His men held him back. Hargrove studied her with cold eyes. "You'd really do that, sacrifice yourself for these people?" "I've lost everything before. My parents, my husband, my home." Clara's voice didn't waver. "But I've never had a family like this one, never had people willing to fight for me. If giving myself up means they live, then yes, without hesitation." Hargrove was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. "You stupid woman." He pulled a pistol from his belt, aimed it at her chest. "I don't want you as a cook. I wanted you as a prize, a trophy, something to show I could take whatever I wanted from whoever I wanted." His finger tightened on the trigger. "But now I just want you dead." Clara closed her eyes. A shot rang out, but the pain never came. She opened her eyes to see Hargrove staggering, a red bloom spreading across his chest. Behind him, one of his own men, a young kid maybe 19, stood with a smoking pistol. "I didn't sign up for this," the kid said, his voice shaking. "Didn't sign up to murder innocent women." Hargrove turned, disbelief on his face. You little—" He collapsed. His men stood frozen, staring at their fallen leader. Sam vaulted the barricade and ran to Clara, pulling her into his arms. "Are you insane?" His voice broke. "You could have been killed. You nearly were killed." "But I wasn't." She buried her face in his chest, finally, allowing herself to shake. "I wasn't." Around them, Hargrove's men were throwing down their weapons, surrendering. The young man who had shot Hargrove was already being restrained, though he didn't resist. It was over. Hargrove was dead. His men were surrendering. The town had held. Clara pulled back to look at Sam's face. Bloody, exhausted. The most beautiful thing she had ever seen. "You're going to marry me," she said. He blinked. "What?" "I said you're going to marry me. I'm not asking. I'm telling. After tonight, I'm not spending another day without knowing you're mine." Sam stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. A real laugh full of joy and relief, and something that sounded like hope. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Whatever you say, ma'am." And he kissed her while the town cheered around them. The cheering faded slowly, replaced by the groans of the wounded and the crackle of dying fires. Clara pulled back from Sam's embrace, suddenly aware of the destruction around them. Half of Main Street lay in ruins. Bodies littered the ground. And somewhere Emmett was still fighting for his life. "We need to help," she said. "There's so much to do." "There'll be time." Sam cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "Right now, I need you to know something." "What?" "That was the bravest and stupidest thing I've ever seen anyone do. Walking out there like that, offering yourself up." His voice cracked. "If that boy hadn't shot Hargrove—" "But he did. But he almost didn't." Sam's hands trembled against her skin. "I can't lose you, Clara. I've lost too much already. My pa, my future, my faith in just about everything. But you're the one thing I can't lose." "Then don't." She covered his hands with hers. "Marry me tomorrow. Don't wait. Don't plan. Just marry me. Tomorrow. Life's too short for waiting. We both know that better than most." Sam stared at her for a long moment. Then a smile broke across his face, bright as sunrise after a storm. "Tomorrow it is." They worked through the night. Clara tended wounds while Sam organized burial details. Miguel set up a makeshift kitchen in the general store, feeding exhausted fighters and grieving families. Josie moved through the chaos like a force of nature, directing cleanup efforts and comforting the bereaved. By dawn, the worst of it was contained. 12 dead on their side, 23 wounded, 3 buildings destroyed completely, including Emmett's saloon. But against Hargrove's 23 men, those numbers felt like a miracle. Hargrove himself lay in the undertaker's back room, waiting for a grave no one seemed eager to dig. "Let the coyotes have him," Tom Hendricks said from his cot in the church. "More than he deserves." "We're not animals," Clara replied, adjusting his bandages. "We bury our dead proper, even the ones who don't deserve it." "You're a better person than me, Miss Clara." "No, I'm just tired of hate, tired of death, tired of carrying anger around like a stone in my pocket." She met his eyes. "Hargrove's gone. Let him stay gone. The rest of us need to figure out how to live." Tom was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "You're going to make a fine sheriff's wife. Deputy's wife." "Not for long, I reckon." Tom's weathered face creased in a knowing smile. "After last night, ain't a soul in this town who wouldn't vote Sam Colton for sheriff. Hell, I'd vote him for governor if he wanted it." Clara found Sam at the edge of town staring at the smoking ruins of Emmett's saloon. "Emmett's going to be heartbroken," he said without turning. That place was his whole life. "Emmett's alive. That's what matters." "Is it enough?" Sam finally looked at her, and she saw the doubt in his eyes. "We won, Clara. But at what cost? People died. Families destroyed. And for what? Because one man couldn't take no for an answer. Because people stood up." Clara moved to stand beside him. "Because they chose to fight instead of run. That means something." "Does it? Or does it just mean we're all too stubborn to know when we're beat?" "Sam Colton." She turned him to face her, gripping his arms hard. "You listen to me. What happened last night wasn't stubbornness. It was courage. It was community. It was everything good about this town, standing up against everything bad. And you made that happen. You. You led them, inspired them, gave them something to believe in when they had every reason to give up." Her voice softened. "You gave me something to believe in. Don't you dare doubt that now." Sam's eyes searched her face. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Make everything seem possible, even when it's not." "It's a gift." She smiled despite her exhaustion. "Along with my cooking. Speaking of which, you need to eat. When's the last time you had a proper meal?" "I don't remember." "Then come on." She took his hand. "I've got biscuits with your name on them." They ate together on the steps of the general store, watching the sun rise over a wounded but unbroken town. Clara had never been so tired in her life, had never been so grateful to be alive. "About the wedding," Sam said between bites. "Having second thoughts." "Never." He squeezed her hand. "But I want to do this right, or as right as we can given the circumstances. The Reverend's still here. Josie can stand up for you. I'll ask Miguel to stand for me." "Miguel?" "He saved your life yesterday, saved the whole town far as I'm concerned. I can't think of anyone I'd rather have at my side." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. He'd be honored. "Then it's settled, tonight at sunset, in front of the whole town." Sam's jaw set with determination. "We'll give these people something to celebrate. God knows they need it." The day passed in a blur of preparations. Clara borrowed a dress from Josie White Cotton, with blue ribbons worn but beautiful. Josie spent an hour on her hair weaving wildflowers through the braids, chattering nervously about her own wedding 30 years ago. He was a rancher. Big hands, bigger heart. Died of influenza 10 years in, but those 10 years... Josie's voice caught. Those 10 years were worth a lifetime. "I'm scared," Clara admitted quietly. "Good. Means you're taking it serious." Josie met her eyes in the mirror. "Love ain't supposed to be easy, honey. It's supposed to be worth it. And from what I've seen, what you and Sam have is worth fighting for." "We barely know each other. It's only been a few weeks. And in those few weeks, you've been through more together than most couples face in years. You've seen each other at your best and your worst. You've fought side by side, bled together, nearly died together." Josie's weathered hands squeezed Clara's shoulders. "That's not nothing. That's everything." Miguel knocked on the door just before sunset. "Miss Clara, they're ready for you." She stepped outside and found Sam waiting at the end of Main Street, standing before the burned-out shell of Emmett's saloon. The whole town had gathered, the wounded on stretchers, the grieving in black, the survivors in whatever clean clothes they could find. Emmett stood beside Sam, leaning heavily on a cane but refusing to sit. "Figured this was the only place that made sense," Sam called out as she approached. "Where we first met. Where this all started." Clara walked toward him on legs that felt like water. Every step brought her closer to a future she had stopped believing was possible. Sam's eyes never left her face. "You're beautiful," he said when she reached him. "I look like I haven't slept in 3 days." "You haven't, neither have I." He took her hands. "Still the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." The Reverend cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was simple. Traditional vows spoken in voices rough with exhaustion and emotion. No fancy words, no elaborate promises. Just two people pledging their lives to each other before God and community. When the Reverend asked if anyone objected, Clara held her breath. Silence. Then Emmett's voice rang out. "If anyone does object, they'll answer to me." Laughter rippled through the crowd, the first real laughter since the battle. "Then by the power vested in me," the Reverend said, "I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Sam pulled her close and kissed her like the world was ending and beginning all at once. The crowd erupted in cheers. Someone produced a fiddle. Someone else dragged out a barrel of whiskey that had survived the fire. Before Clara knew what was happening, a celebration had sprung up in the middle of the ruined street. Injured men dancing with healthy women. Children chasing each other through the debris. "Dance with me," Sam murmured against her ear. "I don't dance." "Neither do I. But tonight we're going to pretend." They swayed together in the middle of Main Street, holding each other close while the town celebrated around them. Clara rested her head on Sam's chest and listened to his heartbeat steady and strong. "I love you," she said. "I know." He kissed the top of her head. "I love you too. Even though you're stubborn as a mule and twice as likely to get yourself killed." "Look who's talking." He laughed, and the sound vibrated through her entire body. The celebration went late into the night. Clara cooked until she couldn't stand feeding anyone who was hungry, pouring all her love into every dish. Sam stayed by her side, eating everything she handed him with that same expression of reverent joy. "Your cooking could make a starving man cry," he said for the 100th time. "You're not starving anymore." "No." He pulled her close. "But I'm going to eat every meal you make like it's the best thing I've ever tasted. Because it is. And because you deserve to know how much you're appreciated." Around midnight, they slipped away to the small house Sam had rented at the edge of town. Their house now. Their home. Clara stood in the doorway, suddenly nervous. "Second thoughts?" Sam asked gently. "No, just... This is real, isn't it? We're really married." "Really married." He lifted her hand, pressing his lips to her wedding ring. "For better or worse, richer or poorer, in sickness and in health. Till death do us part." "Not even then." His eyes were fierce. "I'll find you in the next life, Clara Colton. And the one after that. However many lives it takes." She kissed him then, deep and desperate, and let him carry her over the threshold into their new life. The next few weeks were hard. Rebuilding a town from ashes wasn't glamorous work. Clara spent her days cooking for work crews, and her nights lying awake listening to Sam breathe beside her, still unable to believe this was real. Emmett's saloon rose slowly from the rubble. The whole town pitched in, everyone contributing what they could. Lumber from ranchers, nails from the general store. Labor from men who should have been resting their wounds. "You don't have to help," Emmett protested as Clara served lunch to the workers. "You've done enough." "I haven't done nearly enough. This town saved my life. Let me give something back." The new saloon was bigger than the old one, better designed, and in the back a proper kitchen with all the equipment Clara had ever dreamed of. "It's yours," Emmett said when he showed her. "The kitchen, I mean. I'm too old to be running a restaurant. But with you cooking and me managing the bar, we could build something special here." Clara stared at him. "You want me to be your partner?" "Equal partners, 50-50. You do the cooking, I'll handle everything else." Emmett's eyes twinkled. "Unless you've got other plans now that you're a married woman." "My husband would never ask me to give up my cooking." "Damn right I wouldn't." Sam appeared in the doorway, sawdust in his hair and sweat on his brow. "Your cooking is what brought us together. I'd be a fool to stand in the way of it." "Then we have a deal." Emmett extended his hand. Clara shook it firmly. "We have a deal." The saloon reopened on a Tuesday in late August, and by Wednesday, word had spread throughout the county. People came from miles around to taste Clara's cooking. Her chicken fried steak became legendary. Her biscuits inspired poetry. Her peach cobbler made grown men weep into their plates. Sam ate every meal she served him like it was his last. He told everyone who would listen that his wife's cooking could make a starving man cry with joy. He brought her wildflowers every morning and kissed her every night and looked at her like she hung the moon. "You're going to spoil me," Clara said one evening as they lay tangled together in their bed. "That's the plan." "I'm serious, Sam. No one's ever treated me like this." "Like what?" "Like I matter. Like what I do matters. Like I'm worth something just for being me." Sam propped himself on his elbow, studying her face in the candlelight. "Your husband, Marcus, did he not—" "Marcus was a good man, kind, gentle, but he married me because I was practical. I could keep house manage accounts, make do with little. He appreciated me the way you appreciate a well-made tool." Clara's voice caught. "He never looked at me the way you do, like I'm something precious." "You are precious." Sam traced her jaw with his fingertips. "Not because of what you can do, because of who you are. The bravest, most stubborn, most beautiful woman I've ever known. The kind of woman who walks into a gunfight to save strangers. The kind who feeds an army with nothing but flour and determination." "Sam, I spent 6 years eating my own terrible cooking, Clara. 6 years of burnt beans and bitter coffee. Then you came along and fed me a plate of fried chicken that changed my whole life." He kissed her softly. "It wasn't just the food. It was the love you put into it. I could taste it. I can always taste it." She pulled him down and showed him exactly how much she loved him. Afterwards, as they lay catching their breath, Sam said quietly, "I want to build you a restaurant." Clara sat up. "What? A real restaurant, not just the saloon kitchen. Something that's yours, where you can cook whatever you want, however you want, where people come from all over Texas just to taste your food." "Sam, that would cost—" "Hargrove's estate." Sam's jaw tightened at the name. "The judge ruled it forfeit. Blood money, he called it. The town gets to decide how to use it. I talked to the council. They agreed." Clara stared at him. "You want to use Hargrove's money to build my restaurant? Seems fitting, don't you think he tried to destroy you? Instead, his money's going to build your dream." Sam's smile was fierce. "That's just as far as I'm concerned." Clara thought about it. About Hargrove. About the fire. About everything he had tried to take from her and everyone else. "The golden skillet," she said finally. "What?" "That's what I want to call it. The golden skillet. It's what my aunt always said she'd name her restaurant if she ever had one. She never got the chance." Clara met Sam's eyes. "Let me give her dream a home. Let me make something beautiful from something ugly." "Then that's what we'll do." Sam pulled her close. "Whatever you want, Clara. I'll spend the rest of my life giving you whatever you want. I just want you. You have me, forever." They fell asleep holding each other, dreaming of golden skillets and second chances. 2 months later, they broke ground on the restaurant. Clara designed every detail herself: the layout of the kitchen, the placement of the tables, the colors on the walls. She wanted something warm, welcoming, a place where anyone could walk in and feel at home. Miguel became her head cook, learning everything she could teach him, earning respect through skill and dedication. The townspeople who had once looked at him sideways now greeted him by name, ate his food with enthusiasm, treated him like one of their own. "You changed things," Clara told him one day, "just by being yourself. You changed things first. You gave me a chance." Miguel's dark eyes were bright. "No one else would have. No one else saw what I could become. I saw a talented young man who deserved better than he was getting. Nothing more. That was everything, Miss Clara. Everything." The restaurant opened in October, and within a week, Clara knew they had built something special. Ranchers rode in from 3 counties away. Travelers detoured from the main roads. A journalist from Austin ate every item on the menu and wrote a story that made Clara Colton famous throughout Texas. "The Golden Skillet," he wrote, "serves food so extraordinary it defies description. Mrs. Colton cooks with love in every dish, and that love is unmistakable in every bite." Sam cut out the article and framed it. He hung it in their bedroom, where he could see it every morning when he woke up. "Proud of you," he said, wrapping his arms around her as she stared at the frame. "I haven't done anything yet. You've done everything." He kissed her neck. "And we're just getting started." Clara turned in his arms, searching his face. "What does that mean?" "It means I've been thinking about the future, about what comes next." Sam's expression was serious but soft. "About children, a family, a life." Clara's breath caught. "You want children. I want everything with you, if you want it too." She thought about the question. About her first marriage, childless by circumstance. About the years of believing she would never be a mother. About the tiny hope she had buried so deep she had forgotten it existed. "I want it," she whispered. "I want everything." Sam kissed her slow and sweet, and Clara felt the future opening up before them, like an endless road through beautiful country. They had survived the fire, survived Hargrove, survived their own fear and doubt. Now it was time to live. 3 months after the restaurant opened, Clara woke before dawn with her stomach churning. She barely made it to the wash basin before everything came up. Sam was beside her in an instant, holding her hair back, pressing a cool cloth to her forehead. "Food poisoning?" he asked, concern tight in his voice. Clara shook her head slowly, a realization dawning that made her heart race. "No." She looked up at him, tears springing to her eyes. "Sam, I think I might be." His face went blank. Then understanding broke across it like sunrise. "You mean?" "I'm not certain, but I've been tired and sick in the mornings, and my monthly—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Sam dropped to his knees beside her, taking her hands in his trembling ones. "A baby." His voice cracked. "We're going to have a baby." "We might be. I need to see Doc Harrison to be sure." "I'll get him, right now. I'll ride to his house and—" "Sam." Clara caught his arm before he could bolt. "It's 4 in the morning. The man needs his sleep." "But—" "It can wait a few hours. Whatever's happening in there isn't going anywhere." She pressed his hand to her stomach. "Stay with me. Just stay." He stayed. They sat together on the floor of their small bedroom, holding hands, not speaking, just breathing. Clara felt Sam's pulse racing where their fingers intertwined, matching the wild rhythm of her own heart. A baby. After everything. After so much loss. After believing she would never have this chance. "Are you happy?" she whispered. "Happy?" Sam's voice was rough. "Clara, I'm terrified. And excited. And so full of feelings I don't have names for that I might burst." He lifted her hand to his lips. "But underneath all that, yes, I'm happy. Happier than I've ever been." "Me too." "What if something goes wrong? What if—" "Then we'll face it together, like we face everything." Clara squeezed his hand. "No more running, no more hiding. Whatever comes, we handle it. Together. Always." Doc Harrison confirmed the pregnancy that afternoon. "About 2 months along, I'd say." The old doctor smiled as he packed away his instruments. "Congratulations to you both. This town could use some good news." Sam shook his hand so vigorously, Clara worried he might dislocate something. "Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Is there anything she should be doing or not doing? Should she stop working, rest more, eat different foods?" "Easy there, Deputy." Doc Harrison chuckled. "Pregnancy isn't an illness. Mrs. Colton can continue her normal activities within reason. No heavy lifting. Get plenty of rest. Eat well, though I don't reckon that'll be a problem given what I've tasted from her kitchen." What about the heat? It's still summer. Should she... Sam? Clara put her hand on his arm. Breathe. He stopped, looked at her, took a deep breath. Sorry, I want to do this right. I want to take care of you both. You already are. She kissed his cheek. Just by being you. Word spread through Comfort like wildfire. By evening, half the town had stopped by the Golden Skillet to offer congratulations. Josie brought a handmade blanket she had been working on for weeks, claiming she had known before anyone else. A woman knows these things, she said smugly. Saw it in your face at the wedding. That glow isn't just from being in love. Emmett broke out his best whiskey for everyone except Clara, and toasted to the future. Miguel stood in the corner, quiet, but beaming, already planning special dishes for when the baby came. And through it all, Sam stayed at Clara's side, one hand always touching her. Her shoulder, her back, her stomach. Like he needed constant reassurance that this was real. You're going to be a wonderful mother, he said that night as they lay tangled together. How do you know? Because I've seen how you feed people, how you care for them, how you give everything you have to make their lives better. He traced circles on her belly. Our child is going to be the luckiest baby in Texas. Our child. Clara tested the words. I still can't believe it. Believe it. Sam kissed her softly. This is real. We're real. Everything that's coming is real. The months passed. Clara's belly grew round. The restaurant flourished. Sam got promoted to sheriff just as Tom Hendricks had predicted. And Comfort, Texas, healed from its wounds, growing stronger with every passing day. But nothing worth having comes without struggle. In her 7th month, Clara woke to sharp pains and bright blood on the sheets. Sam! Her scream tore through the night. He was up instantly, lighting lamps, seeing the blood going white as chalk. No, 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 no! He gathered her in his arms. Hold on, just hold on, I'm getting the doc. Don't leave me. I have to, I'll be right back, I swear. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Stay strong. Both of you stay strong. He ran. Clara lay alone, clutching her stomach, feeling the life inside her flutter weakly. Please, she whispered to the darkness. Please don't take this from me. I've lost so much. I can't lose this too, please. Doc Harrison arrived within minutes, Sam on his heels. The old man's face was grim as he examined her, but his hands were steady. The baby's still alive, he said finally. Heartbeat strong, but you're bleeding too much. You need complete bed rest. No movement, no stress, nothing until this baby's ready to come. For how long? However long it takes. Weeks. Maybe a couple months. Doc Harrison met her eyes. I won't lie to you, Mrs. Colton. This is serious. If the bleeding doesn't stop, it'll stop. Sam's voice was fierce. It has to stop. That's not how medicine works, Deputy. Then prayer, then sheer stubbornness, then whatever it takes. Sam gripped Clara's hand. This baby is going to be born healthy. My wife is going to be fine. I refuse to accept any other outcome. Doc Harrison sighed. Keep her still. Keep her calm. And pray. He left. Sam climbed into bed beside Clara, pulling her gently into his arms. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. For what? For scaring you. For not being stronger. For... Stop. His voice was rough. You have nothing to apologize for. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But if I lose the baby, then we'll grieve together, and we'll try again. And whatever happens, I will never, ever blame you. He tipped her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. You hear me, Clara Colton? This marriage isn't conditional on giving me children. I married you because I love you. Period. End of story. Sam, I mean it. If we end up with 10 kids or no kids at all, my love for you won't change, can't change. You're stuck with me either way." She laughed through her tears. "That doesn't sound so bad." Didn't think so. They held each other through the long night, neither sleeping, both praying. The bleeding stopped by morning. But Doc Harrison's orders stood. Complete bed rest. No exceptions. Clara thought she would go mad. For a woman who had spent her entire adult life in motion cooking, cleaning, creating, lying still felt like torture. She watched the ceiling, counted the cracks in the walls, listened to the sounds of the restaurant below where Miguel and a team of helpers kept things running in her absence. Sam brought her every meal himself. "Miguel made this," he said, setting a tray on her lap. "But I supervised. Made sure he put the love in." "You supervised the love?" "Watched him like a hawk. Told him if this food didn't taste like he meant it, I'd have words with him." Clara took a bite of the soup. It was good. Really good. Miguel had learned well. "It's perfect," she said. "Tell him I'm proud." "Tell him yourself. He's coming up after the lunch rush." Miguel visited every afternoon, bringing updates from the kitchen and samples for Clara to taste. He asked her advice on recipes, on staff management, on handling difficult customers. He treated her like a mentor, and she found purpose in the teaching. "You don't need me anymore," she told him one day. "You're ready to run this kitchen on your own." "I'll always need you, Miss Clara." Miguel's dark eyes were serious. "Not just for cooking. For believing in me when no one else did. For treating me like I mattered. You do matter. I know that now. Because you showed me." He took her hand, something he never would have dared before. "This baby is lucky to have you as a mother. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure they know how special their mama is." Clara cried. Blamed the pregnancy hormones. Knew it was something deeper. Josie came by every morning with gossip and knitting. "3 more proposals since you've been laid up," she reported cheerfully. Susan Miller finally said yes to that rancher from Austin. The Patterson girl ran off with a traveling salesman, and I heard tell that the new schoolteacher has her eye on Miguel. "Miguel?" Clara perked up. "Really?" "Don't go matchmaking from your bed, Clara Colton. That man's got enough on his plate without you meddling." "I don't meddle. I encourage." "Same thing." Josie's needles clicked steadily. "How are you feeling today, honestly?" "Scared, hopeful, impatient." Clara smoothed her hands over her enormous belly. "Ready for this to be over, terrified for it to start." "That's motherhood, honey. All those feelings at once, forever." Josie's weathered face softened. "You're going to be fine. I can feel it in my bones." "Your bones have been wrong before." "Not about this, not about you." Josie reached over and squeezed her hand. "You survived Hargrove, survived the fire, survived more heartbreak than most people face in 3 lifetimes. You think God's going to take this from you after all that? I don't know what God's going to do. Then trust me. Trust this town that loves you. Trust that husband of yours who looks at you like you hung every star in the sky." Josie's eyes were fierce. "You're going to hold that baby in your arms, Clara. I promise you." Clara wanted to believe her, wanted it more than she had ever wanted anything. She closed her eyes and prayed. The baby came on a Tuesday in March 2 weeks early. Clara woke to her water breaking and contractions that felt like being torn apart from the inside. Sam sent for Doc Harrison, sent for Josie, sent for anyone who might help. "I'm here." He gripped her hand as the pain rolled through her. "I'm not going anywhere." "Sam, I'm scared." "I know. Me too." He kissed her forehead. "But we're doing this together. You and me. Just like everything else." Labor lasted 18 hours. Clara screamed, cried, swore at Sam in language that would have made a sailor blush. He took it all without flinching, holding her hand, wiping her brow, whispering encouragement when she wanted to give up. "I can't," she sobbed. "I can't do this." "You can. You're the strongest person I've ever met." "I'm not strong. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Then rest on me. Take my strength. Whatever you need, it's yours. One final push, one final scream, and then a cry. Thin and reedy, and the most beautiful sound Clara had ever heard. It's a girl! Doc Harrison's voice rang with triumph. A healthy baby girl! Clara collapsed against the pillows sobbing as Josie cleaned the baby and placed her in Clara's arms. She was perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a scrunch of dark hair, and eyes that blinked open to reveal the exact shade of her father's brown. Hello, little one. Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Hello, my darling. Sam leaned over them both, tears streaming down his face, his tough lawman facade completely shattered. She's beautiful, he choked out. Clara, she's so beautiful. She looks like you. Poor kid. Clara laughed even though it hurt. I love you. I love you too. Both of you. Sam touched the baby's cheek with one trembling finger. What should we call her? Clara had been thinking about this for months. Through all the fear and uncertainty, this question had given her hope. Grace, she said. Her name is Grace. Why Grace? Because that's what this is, what we have, what we've been given. Clara looked up at her husband, at the man who had eaten her cooking like it was sacred, who had fought for her and loved her and never once wavered. We don't deserve any of this, but here we are anyway. That's Grace. Sam kissed her softly. Grace it is. The town celebrated for a week. People came from all over the county to see the baby, to bring gifts, to toast the Colton family. Clara received them all from her bed, Grace cradled in her arms, Sam stationed protectively nearby. She's going to be a heartbreaker, Tom Hendricks declared, peering at the baby with his weathered face. Got her mama's spirit, I can tell already. God help us all if she does, Sam said. God help the men who try to court her, you mean? Tom chuckled. With you as her daddy, those poor boys don't stand a chance. Emmett visited with a bottle of champagne and tears in his eyes. I never had kids of my own, he said quietly, watching Clara nurse Grace. Always regretted it, but seeing you with this little one, he cleared his throat. It's like watching my own family grow, if that makes any sense. It makes perfect sense. Clara took his hand. You are family, Emmett. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You made all of this possible. You made it possible. I just opened a door. The old man squeezed her fingers. You walked through it. Miguel stood in the doorway, too shy to come closer, but Clara called him in. Meet your goddaughter, she said, holding Grace up. We talked about it, Sam and I. We want you to be her godfather, if you're willing. Miguel's eyes went wide. Me, but I'm not. I mean, Your family, Sam said firmly. You proved that 10 times over. There's no one we'd trust more. Miguel looked at Grace, at Clara, at Sam, and then he did something Clara had never seen him do. He smiled, really smiled, without any shadows. I would be honored, he said. I'll protect her with my life. Let's hope it never comes to that. Clara laughed. But thank you. The restaurant reopened with Clara cooking part-time, Grace strapped to her chest, babbling happily among the pots and pans. The customers loved it. Said food tasted even better now, seasoned with baby laughter and new love. Sam continued eating every meal like it was the best thing he had ever tasted. You're going to get fat, Clara told him one evening, watching him demolish his third helping of pot roast. Worth it. He grinned with his mouth full. Your cooking could still make a starving man cry with joy. That hasn't changed. You're hardly starving. Doesn't matter. Still cry. He pointed to his eyes where moisture genuinely glistened. See happy tears. Every single time. Grace grew fast. Before Clara knew it, she was walking, then talking, then asking questions that neither parent could answer. She had her father's stubbornness and her mother's passion, and she spent her childhood in the Golden Skillet's kitchen learning to cook before she could properly read. Mama teach me the biscuits, she demanded at age 5. You're too young. Am not. I'm gonna be the best cook in Texas. Better than you. Clara looked at Sam, who shrugged with a smile. She's your daughter, he said. She's our daughter, which means she's just as stubborn as you. They taught her together, just like they did everything. Years passed. The restaurant expanded. Sam became the longest-serving sheriff in county history. Miguel eventually opened his own place in San Antonio, but visited every Christmas without fail. Josie passed peacefully in her sleep at age 78, leaving Clara her recipes and her strength. Through it all, Sam never stopped telling Clara that her cooking could make a starving man cry with joy. He said it at breakfast. He said it at dinner. He said it on their 10th anniversary and their 20th and their 30th. Don't you ever get tired of saying that? Clara asked one evening, gray in her hair now, but fire still in her eyes. Don't you ever get tired of hearing it? Never. Then there's your answer. Sam took her hand across the table, his weathered fingers interlacing with hers. Besides, it's true. Still true. Always true. Grace married a good man and gave them 3 grandchildren. The golden skillet passed to her management, though Clara still showed up most mornings to supervise. Sam finally retired at 68, spending his days in the kitchen watching Clara work, eating everything she made. You're going to outlive us all on sheer stubbornness, Clara told him. That's the plan. Gotta make sure you're taken care of. I can take care of myself. No, you can. Just don't want you to have to. On their 40th wedding anniversary, the whole town threw a celebration. Every person Clara had ever fed showed up. Every life she had touched. Every soul she had nourished with food and love and grace. Sam stood before them all and made a speech that left no one dry-eyed. 40 years ago, I stumbled across a woman cooking in a saloon kitchen. I was half-starved, beaten down, and certain my life would never amount to much. Then she fed me, and everything changed. He turned to look at Clara, his eyes bright with tears. Her cooking could make a starving man cry with joy. I said that to her the first week I knew her, and I've said it every day since, because it's true. But it's not just about the food. It's about the love she puts into everything she touches, the care, the grace. He took her hand. This woman saved my life, gave me a family, gave me a purpose, gave me 40 years of the best meals and the best love a man could ask for. His voice broke. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a single thing. Not the fire, not the fight, not any of it. Because it all led here, to her, to us, to this. Clara stood and kissed him, while everyone cheered. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I know. He smiled. I love you too, forever. Forever, she agreed. And as they held each other, surrounded by family and friends, and the legacy of a life built on courage and cooking and unconditional love. Clara knew one truth above all others. She had stopped running. She had found her home. And she had built something that would last long after she was gone. Not just a restaurant. Not just a family. A life worth living. A love worth keeping. A story worth telling. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.